We're starting today with something that's sort of really funny, but also sad, and really just a sign of how disconnected from facts and rationality we have gotten as a matter of sort of standard political discourse in the United States. And I'll explain. Yesterday, there were impeachment hearings. They were the first hearings in the Judiciary Committee. Everything in the weeks prior was in the House Intelligence Committee led by Adam Schiff. Yesterday, nearly 9 hours of hearings. We were there for every minute, live streaming, 9 hours of hearings overseen in the Judiciary Committee by Congressman Jerry Nadler. And Democrats brought in three well-known legal scholars to lay out the case for why Donald Trump's actions meet the standard required for impeachment. Now, this is not anything about would articles be filed? How would the trial go? How would senators vote? It's merely legal experts saying, here's the standard for impeachment. Here is historical information. Here is legal information. And here is how Trump's actions fit into that. They were Professors Noah Feldman, Pamela Karlan, and Michael Gerhardt who did this. It was, again, nearly 9 hours of hearings. The Republican strategy was mostly talk only to their witness. They brought one witness, Republicans did, Jonathan Turley, and focus merely on how he believes there is no need to impeach. There is no case for impeachment. But when Republicans did talk to the three witnesses called by the Democratic majority in the House of Representatives, the strategy was attack them, attack their credibility, attack them personally as biased partisan actors rather than the legal experts that they are. And one of the funniest such attacks was from a congressman named Matt Gaetz. Now, if you don't know Matt Gaetz, you're probably much happier in your life than people who do know who this guy is, because he is such bottom feeding, Anyway, he is one of the basest bomb throwers of the "we always defend Trump" movement or camp. He tries to go after Professor Karlan by pointing out that she made legal, political contributions, and he really sounds very dumb doing it. Take a look at this.
Thank you. I appreciate your testimony. Professor Karlan, you gave $2,000, or you gave $1,000 to Elizabeth Warren, right?
I believe so.
You gave $1,200 to Barack Obama?
I have no reason to question that.
And you gave $2,000 to Hillary Clinton?
That's correct.
Why so much more for Hillary than the other two?
Because I've been giving a lot of money to charity recently because of all of the poor people in the United States.
Well, those aren't the only folks you've been given to.
There's lots of poor people in the U.S. I found Professor Karlan quick-witted and impressive and formidable, as we often hear floated around. Gaetz continued with this brutal prosecution of Pamela Karlan. Take a listen.
Now, have you ever been on a podcast called Versus Trump?
I think I was on a live panel that the people who ran the podcast called Versus Trump.
On that, do you remember saying the following? Liberals tend to cluster more. Conservatives, especially very conservative people, tend to spread out more, perhaps because they don't even want to be around themselves. Did you say that?
Yes, I did.
Do you understand how that reflects contempt on people who are conservative?
No, what I was talking about there was the natural tendency, if you put the quote in context, the natural tendency of a compactness requirement to favor a party whose voters are more spread out.
Well,
and I do not have contempt for conservatives.
I'm very limited on time, Professor. And so I just have to say, when you talk about how liberals want to be around each other and cluster, and conservatives don't want to be around each other, and so they have to spread out, it makes people, you may not see this from, like the ivory towers of your law school, but it makes actual people in this country feel like, excuse me, you don't get to interrupt me on this time. Now, let me also suggest that when you invoke the president's son's name here, when you try to make a little joke out of referencing Barron Trump, that does not lend credibility to your argument. It makes you look mean.
So understand, this is all they have. If they had more, they would use it. She was on a podcast in talking about how the districting requirements help Republicans. They are biased towards conservative. These are the requirements that got us the gerrymandering that we now have that so favors Republicans. While she was talking about that on a podcast, she throws in sort of a joke, but it's not even really a joke because it actually does go to why there is a structural advantage for Republicans in districting. Conservatives don't even want to be near each other. It is true that conservatives have more rural tendencies. In other words, there is a systemic structural bias where the party, the movement that is more interested in living rurally rather than living in an urban or more condensed fashion, compact fashion, that is going to help Republicans have more districts, even with lower population density. Anyway, understand that this is an attempted attack on her credibility, but it does nothing to assail her legal knowledge, which she was there to provide and did in an extremely accurate and precise way. Then Gaetz brings up Trump's son. This was so overblown. Karlan said during the hearings, in talking about how Trump can't be allowed to just control everything. It can't be just everything is the way Trump wants. She said Trump doesn't get to make Barron a baron, meaning she doesn't get to make his son, Barron Trump, a monarch, right? A baron is a sort of, I think, entry-level monarch of some kind. And Republicans went crazy pretending that it was an attack on a kid. It's a complete and total joke because that's all that they had. Here's one other moment where another Republican tried to get them to reveal by a show of hands how they voted in 2016, which is, of course, something they don't have to answer. He's allowed to ask. They don't have to answer. This is Republican Tom McClintock trying that as a strategy to attack the character of the witnesses.
Mr. McClintock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I begin just with a show of hands? How many on the panel actually voted for Donald Trump in 2016?
I don't think we're obligated to say anything about how we cast our ballots.
Just show of hands.
I will not.
I think you've made your positions, Professor Karlan, very clear.
The gentleman will suspend and will suspend the clock too.
I have a right to cast a secret ballot.
You may ask the question.
All right, let me rephrase the question. How many of you
The clock is
supported?
stopped for the moment. The gentleman may ask the question. The witnesses don't have to respond.
How many of
the
you
gentleman's time is
supported
restored.
Donald Trump in 2016? Show of hands. Thank you.
Not raising our hands is not an
Professor-
indication of an answer, sir.
This is all they had. Tell us how you voted. Did you once make a joke on a podcast years ago? Still, I maintain, nothing may come of this. But the lines of questioning from Republicans made it so clear that they know they have nothing because this is what they had to resort to. Unfortunately, also, that probably played really well. I didn't watch any of the Fox News stuff yesterday, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if they had video of Matt Gaetz talking about a podcast that Professor Karlan appeared on and framing it as, wow, what a brutal indictment. It wouldn't shock me, but big picture, we know that this type of stuff works, even though it is completely not based in assessing the most important thing here, which is the legal case for the impeachability of Donald Trump.